he did not understand UPSC questions. एग्जाम में वो नहीं शाइन करेगा जो बहुत पढ़ रहा है, वो शाइन करेगा जो समझेगा of the whole nature and pulse of UPSC, to build your fundamental concepts. Definitely one gets inspired by reading newspaper. There are so many themes. All these years UPSC is conducting its prelims paper. It's been so many years, right? That is what the question is demanding from you, or the examiner is demanding from you. Why current affairs? Because the inspiration to ask could have been on the kinds of news which had been coming before the question had been asked. तो पढ़ना तो बस इतना ही है कि उसका नेचर क्या है, उसके बाद the ball is in your court. That's why I feel that it is very limited.
UPSC doesn't punish less study, it punishes unchanged mistakes. If the same issues keep repeating, your prep isn't improving, it's just getting longer. Recall drops in mocks, answers stay generic, elimination errors repeat. Current affairs doesn't convert into mains points. These are signs your preparation needs correction. That's not an effort problem, it's a system problem. Vision IAS Delhi GS Foundation is built to fix this early. Sequenced classes, timely tests, built-in revision, mentorship reviews. PT 365 and Mains 365 make current affairs usable in answers. If UPSC 2027 is your target, start with a structure that makes improvement predictable. Batches starting from 3rd February at 8 am at GTB Nagar and 6th February at 11 am, 13th February at 8 am and 24th February at 5 pm at Karol Bagh. For more information, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
So very good morning to all of you. I hope you're all doing good. Yes? Very nice. So I know why are you all here, to understand what is the trend, what is the analysis, how to approach your ancient, medieval and culture, specifically through the lens of UPSC. Because obviously we are going to discuss the questions which have come or asked by UPSC in the last 3 years. I still feel that last 3 years is not a big window to understand how the pattern is, specifically when the subject is ancient, medieval and culture. But still, we will be making sense of how to approach this subject. Now, before I start telling you and showing you the questions, I would first like to, tell you things which you do wrong, right? So there are 3 types of aspirants. I hope all these are familiar faces to all of you. Do you watch TV series? Do you watch films? Yes. So you must be aware about Gauri Bhaiya, Manoj Sharma and Sandeep Bhaiya, right? So these are the 3 kinds of aspirants which you see in old Rajendra Nagar or anywhere else around, which is the hub of UPSC coaching, right? So how is Gauri Bhaiya? Who's he? What kind of person was he? The one who would always give you the gyan. A good guide and mentor. Why? Because he studied ancient, medieval and culture from all the sources. He knew all the sources. He knew all the online compilations, right? So he is one kind of aspirant who's there, like an angel, guiding you and suggesting you what to do, what not to do. Yes? है ना? ऐसे ही थे ना ये? But हुआ क्या ultimately? He did not clear. Why? Why he did not clear? Not because he was not knowing the sources, right? He was not knowing, from where to study what, but he was directionless. He did not understand UPSC questions through UPSC language, right? And why so? Because he solved PYQs, he did not understand the logic behind it. That's why he couldn't clear. So there are many aspirants who run for facts, who run after sources, right? But what happens eventually? If you're not understanding UPSC, it will become very, very difficult for you to clear this examination. Let's talk about the second kind of aspirant, Sandeep Bhaiya. So how is he? He's a very sincere, very disciplined student, right? He used to do whatever it takes. He knew all the sources. He also solved PYQs, read the explanations, did multiple revisions. Again, very sincere and very, very consistent. But what happens to such kind of students who put in energy, who put in hard work, they know what to do, but still are not able to understand UPSC? Why? Because they get confused. Why do they get confused? Because they are again doing everything what it takes, right? होता क्या है इनका eventually? UPSC नहीं होता, but PCS होता है ना? He just happens to miss the cutoff by a few marks, right? Why? Because again, UPSC questions and understanding demands a judgment, demands that, analytical skills that will only happen or come when you actually understand them rather than only solving them. Are you getting me? So this is where I again feel most of the aspirants are stuck, right? So PCS हो जाएगा, UPSC नहीं होगा. And then comes who? Manoj Sharma. Not a very exceptionally good student, but knows what to do, right? So what he does, he understood the PYQs. Why? Because he solved them within a classroom setup. Why? What happens in the classroom? So you all are sitting here. What will eventually happen if I ask you why a statement is wrong? You will think on it. So someone would give one logic, the other person would give one logic, you will listen to that logic, you will listen to the judgment of the teacher, and then your brain would open. Yes or no? So studying or understanding in silos, in library, or independently at home may not work for many, may work for some, right? So this is where you have to understand what you are going to take from the UPSC questions and preparation. So he is the one who is going to get it all. Why? Because UPSC rewards the person who studies in the right way, right? And does not reward who studies the most. Right way पकड़ना है, बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं करना है. So this is what is, in simple words, UPSC. All the more because the competition has increased. All the more lakhs of aspirants are adding almost every year. Right? Now the UPSC notification has come out. Seats have reduced. So again, competition would become more. Right? So you have to find your sweet spot there. And where is your sweet spot? When you understand your strengths and weakness. Again, exam में वो नहीं shine करेगा जो बहुत पढ़ रहा है. वो shine करेगा जो समझेगा of the whole nature and pulse of UPSC. So with this note, let us start our ancient, medieval and culture. Yes? So talking about ancient, medieval and culture, yes, this subject is very much feared, very much dreaded, right? How many questions in the last 3 years? In the last 3 years, there have been 26 questions. So on an average, 8 questions, right? But जैसे मैंने बोला, the 3 years is not a good window to assess the importance of the subject. We need to consider around 5 to 7 years at least to get that sense of average. So if I may add, so the average should be seen from the perspective of around 10 questions, right? So there are on an average 6 to 7 questions in culture. There are on an average 2 to 3 questions in ancient or medieval, right? So this is what first you have to make sense. Obviously, when it comes to all these 3 subjects, art and culture has been given more weightage. But having said that, again, that does not mean that all the time art and culture may be given weightage. There has been this pattern with UPSC, this unpredictability to keep you in a very challenging situation in the examination hall. So you should be prepared for the worst. राइट हो सकता है एंशिएंट के ज़्यादा आ जाए, यू नेवर नो, हो सकता है मिडीवल के आ जाए, बिकॉज दे ऑल्सो नो अबाउट यू दैट यू स्किप दी सब्जेक्ट्स, ठीक है? तो वाई टू गिव अ चांस? बिकॉज UPSC Prelims is not a knowledge test, it is an elimination test, right? So they obviously would want many to get eliminated. Do you understand this? What is the nature of mains and interview? They want to select you. They want to select the best. But in this, where lakhs of aspirants are sitting, they want to eliminate the maximum, right? So that's why this challenging and unpredictability is more in prelims examination. So always put your guards on, always prepare for the worst. Don't skip any subject, do the minimum of it, right? There may be many people who may be telling you that ठीक है मेरा तो हो गया था, मैं तो medieval पढ़कर नहीं गया. हो गया था आपका, you lucky you, but not everyone is lucky, right? So do the minimum, at least do the basic if this subject is not cup of your tea. But I still feel that it should be a cup which one should enjoy because it's not that difficult. Okay, so let's understand further analysis of ancient, medieval, and culture. So if you see the year-wise bifurcation, in 2023, there have been 3 questions in medieval, 1 question in ancient, and 6 questions in art and culture, right? When you talk about 2024, you see 6 questions in art and culture again, ancient 1, medieval 1. Right? So it may appear to many that एक question के लिए क्या पूरा medieval पढ़ना? But again, as I told you, there is no certainty, right? So at least do the minimum, right? In 2025, 2 questions in culture. See how drastically the weightage has been shifted. Shifted to which subject? Ancient, right? तो ये हो सकता है. That's why I'm saying you with full conviction that this is what you have to keep in mind, right? Now, again, further decoding the analysis with respect to how the nature of questions you have to make sense of when it comes to these 3 subjects, right? So out of 26 questions the last 3 years, 14 questions are from your static element. What does static element mean here? That means very fundamental questions, very conceptual questions, the basic essence of any civilization, age, or era, right? Then there are questions, 6 questions on static plus current affairs. So the inspiration is current affairs, but they're asking static portion of it. So there are around 6 questions of that nature in your ancient, medieval, and culture in the last 3 years. That means 2 questions almost you get from current affairs plus static orientation. Then only current affairs questions have been 2. That means in the last 3 years there have been direct 2 current affairs questions. What does direct 2 current affairs questions mean? कि अगर कोई recent inclusion हुआ है in, let's say, UNESCO's World Heritage Site list, so that is a direct current affairs question, right? And then there are questions, around 4 questions on repeated themes which have already been repeated or asked by UPSC. So for example, Sangam age. So you do get questions from Sangam age or Sangam literature. That is what I mean by repeated or recurrent themes in the last 3 years. So this is what you have to make sense when it comes to ancient, medieval and culture, right? Now, let's take up the first section, that is ancient, medieval and culture. How many questions? Obviously the maximum questions, around 14 questions. From which section have they asked the most questions? They have asked most questions from Buddhism and Jainism. Then in 2024, 2 questions, so around 6 questions in the last 3 years from Buddhism, Jainism itself. Matlab 2 ki average hai. Right? Then in literature, you have 4 questions. That means literature is also one section from which every year there is a question. Ab ye hai factual. This, according to UPSC pattern, is a mix of very difficult and manageable section, right? Then these are the questions, let's say when it comes to current affairs based questions, whether static plus current affairs or current affairs only, these questions you can't let go off from your hands, right? Yahan par galti nahi honi chahiye, right? Then you have from art and sculpture, or sculpture basically, 1 question. But still I feel 3 years does not do justice to this section. You have to take a large window, right? So let's start with Buddhism and Jainism question. There are around 6 questions. Let's understand the nature. Let's understand how you have to prepare this topic also. So in 2023, there was a question on stup. Okay. Now, this is a blend of static plus current affairs question. It does not look like current affairs, but the inspiration to ask this question is coming from the news, right? Let's first understand what was the news, how you have to make sense of the things which are coming in the newspaper to build your fundamental concepts, right? Uske baad we'll discuss the question. So there was a article in January 2023 or 2023 mein hi question aaya hai. That means if anything is coming, let's say in the month of Jan to April, right? Or close to around 10th April also, 15th April also, close to around end of April also, because you have your paper on 24th of May. I feel sometimes first week of May could also be used as a reference for news. Obviously, this is not with respect to ancient medieval culture, because the nature of the subject is static, so no major news would come. But yes, definitely for different subjects like environment, S&T, polity, economics, you may get, a major news that could be asked or could be used as a inspiration. So there was this news in January 2023 that Archaeological Survey of India had discovered 1200-year-old miniature stupas at Nalanda, right? Now these miniature stupas were miniature votive stup, right? So this was the article that came in the newspaper. Now if you see, there is a word called votive stup. There is a question on stup itself. You may say that, ma'am, isn't it far-fetched that we are making sense of the question coming, in UPSC on stup, and you are linking it with current affairs? Definitely one gets inspired by reading newspaper. There are so many themes. All these years UPSC is conducting its prelims paper. It's been so many years, right? Why all of a sudden a question would come on stup, and that too 3 statement where there will be a word of votive, right? So that's what first you have to make sense, right? Now what has been the nature of the question specifically when they are asking conceptual question? Ab mere hisab se, this is not a factual question, this is a conceptual question, a very important element in architecture, Buddhist architecture, and that is stup, है ना? तो हम कोई भी जब कॉन्सेप्ट पढ़ते हैं, where do we start with? We start with its origin. अब हिस्ट्री में कॉन्सेप्ट का मतलब क्या है? वो कब ओरिजिनेट हुआ? Isn't it? And then we'll understand what was it. Yes or no? है ना? अब let me give you another example. When we talk about geography, when we are doing, let's say, cyclone, तो हम cyclone का origin कब हुआ था first वो थोड़ी देखेंगे, right? Similarly, every subject has a nature, right? So we have to give respect to that nature. In history, we have to give that understanding or make a sense that when did this concept emerge in the very first place, right? And that is what UPSC has asked. The concept of stup is Buddhist in origin, कि ये बुद्ध के टाइम पे ही ओरिजिनेट हुआ था. That is what the question is demanding from you, or the examiner is demanding from you. Second, stup was generally a repository of relics. अब वो पूछ रहे हैं ये है क्या? What is it all about? The nature or the definition of stup. So definitely stup is a repository of relics. Relics matlab remains. Dead ke remains, right? What is third statement asking you? The different kinds of stup, or why stup was constructed, right? Stup was a votive and commemorative structure in Buddhist tradition. मतलब हम स्तूप को बनाते क्यों थे, right? To commemorate someone or to, give credence to a vow taken, है ना? तो इन सब कारणों की वजह से they have asked a conceptual question. Probably I feel that it was to do with current affairs that may have inspired the paper setter, right? So now coming to the answer. What do you think? When you study stup in your NCERT, did you come to know about all of this or not? यही problem है. NCERT में सब कुछ given था. I'll show you the screenshots of NCERT also, right? So again, the question was not that difficult. No, stup is not Buddhist in origin. We do have, references of stup in Vedic literature or Vedic times also. In megalithic times, we have this burial mound. What is stup? A burial mound, right? ठीक है, तो 1 is wrong, 2 and 3 are correct, so only 2 is the answer. Let me show you where you do not read carefully. So this is your themes in Indian history, part 1, your NCERT class 12th book, right? अब कैसे पढ़ते हो आप? मुझे नहीं पता, मैं आपको बता रही हूँ how you should have read, right? So what is this paragraph giving you? Why were stups built? Yes, क्यों बनाते हैं? To keep bodily remains, to keep the objects which the Buddha have used. So stup is a particular word in Buddhist architecture which is associated with keeping the relics or remains of Buddha. Yes, and the mounds were known as stup. The burial mound was known as stup. इस तरीके का ऐसे बना देते थे और यहाँ पर remains रख देते थे, right? The tradition of erecting stup may have been pre-Buddhist. NCERT में यही लिखा हुआ है. क्या लिखा हुआ है? That it may have also been pre-Buddhist, but they came to be generally associated with Buddhism. अब कहाँ गलती कर रहे हो? गलती कर रहे हो because you don't know what is important, what is not important. You read it very casually, you read it very generally. You are one of those aspirants who keep on reading, who knows what to read from where, but are not able to apply this. वो एस्पिरेंट्स की स्टोरी बताइए ना, उसको याद रखना, ठीक है? So this is one thing which you all should start, doing, that you have to make sense what is important and what is not important, and that is what we are here for, to make sense through UPSC questions only, how you could better prepare your UPSC Prelims 2026, right? Now, coming to another thing which I would like to tell you all. Again, in your NCERT, there are pictures, there are boxes which gives you something, which tells you something, but again, you take it very casually. A votive inscription from Sanchi, right? So there is a mention of word votive. आप लोग क्या करते हो? आप लोग पढ़कर भी नहीं पढ़ रहे होते हो, What I mean by this is that you think that you know it, but you don't know it. So how many of you must have gone through this thinking कि हाँ ये ठीक है ऐसे ही कुछ word लिखा हुआ है. Many of you do this. नहीं करना है, जिसका मतलब नहीं पता है वो देखना है, राइट? क्योंकि अगर आप वो नहीं देखोगे तो आपके -2 हो जाएंगे, राइट? So don't have that kind of feeling that I know it till the time you actually know it. क्या मतलब यही करना है हमें? It's all there in your NCERT, right? So you have such, pictures, you have this description about stup, which will tell you that, it was built to commemorate, it was built to, give importance to a vow taken by a king, right? So everything is given in your NCERT, right? ठीक है, अब मैं एक और आपको NCERT दिखा रही हूँ, which is your Introduction to Indian Art Part 1. Here also, what's mentioned? Votive रॉक आर्ट स्तूप, राइट? तो इसका मतलब दिया हुआ है बट हमने देखा नहीं है, राइट? सो बेसिकली व्हाट इज स्तूप? स्तूप इज अ वर्ड विच कम्स फ्रॉम अ heap or a burial mound, right? So it is a mound like structure. There are 3 kinds of stoop. Sharirik stoop, where sharirik means bodily remains, right? Paribhogika stoop, which will keep some personal belongings of Buddha, right? And then there is Uddeshika stoop, which is now linked with taking a vow or to commemorate the contribution or victory of anyone, right? So these are the 3 different kinds of stoop. ये NCERT में नहीं है, right? This comes from basic understanding, और जब आप क्लासरूम में जाते हो, क्लास नोट्स रेफर करते हो, तब आपको मिलता है, right? Now another question on Buddha. Now this is difficult question, not because that you could not know this, but even despite of knowing one option or could arrive at knowing that one option, you still will not be able to do it. Let's be very realistic on this, right? So the question is on the different titles adopted by or given to Buddha, right? Nayaput, Shakyamuni, Tathagat. Now, having said that, one thing which you all need to cultivate is that you need to link wherever possible whatever information you have come across. Now, how many of you know that Buddha belonged to Shakya clan? Yes, है ना? अगर ये पता है तो आपका दिमाग यहाँ पर जाना चाहिए, घंटी बजनी चाहिए. The bell should ring in your mind that he could be known as Shakya Muni, right? So this needs to be done or cultivated, right? Now coming to Tathagat. क्या ये possible है to know? Yes, NCERT. Class notes भी, NCERT भी, right? It is possible to know this. Again, जैसे मैंने बोला, box. What is written? Thup to the Tathagat. So Tathagat here is Buddha. Remains of Tathagat, Buddha. तो क्या हुआ फिर? हमने देखा नहीं और मिस हो गया. Now, obviously, to solve this question with full confidence and entirety, you should also know about Nayaput, right? इसलिए मैं बोल रही हूँ because option is given 1, 2 and 3. That's why it is difficult. So you should be knowing about Nayaput. But generally and usually what UPSC does is whenever Buddhism, Jainism questions are asked, अगर question Buddhism पे है तो वो Jainism से वो interchange करेंगे. So what I mean by this is that Nayaput is a title adopted by Mahavir, not Buddha. ठीक है? अब this makes it difficult, right? But ये जो नया put है, that is also coming from the clan. So we all know that he belonged to Lichavi clan, right? Which is also known as Jnatrika, which is also known as Naya clan or Nyay clan. और यहीं से आया नया put, right? So this was a difficult question, but yet, because question has come, you should know about Nayaput, you should know about Tathagat also. What is Tathagat? Tathagat means thus gone, thus come. Tatha here means thus, Gata means gone, right? Or come. Why would he come back when he has gone? To share the wisdom. So he is eternal. Buddha is eternal. That is what it means, right? So this is with respect to the second question. Now coming to the third question on Buddhist sites. So a question of sites or important places looks like this. There may be a question where only one site of Buddhism or Jainism could be given, or all the three sites would be of either Buddhism or Jainism, but this is a mixed type of question, right? Now Bhaj caves, सबको पता होते हैं क्या है? Buddhist caves, है ना? Sita Navasul, Pandyan dynasty, Jain caves. This you have it in your NCERT. This also you have it in your NCERT. But where is the catch? Vijayanagar is a place which has been used by UPSC in its different questions with different names. So when we understand and solve or study PYQs, we have to keep in mind that whatever option UPSC has asked, you should Google it, right? Because in history, there is a trend that they give you some ancient name, right? There are names of cities which are more than one, right? So you should be having some kind of familiarity or association. So Vijayanagar has been asked by UPSC in its previous years. First, I would like to show you that question, and that is Bhilsa. So Bhilsa, Vijayanagar is a very important place where the Greek ambassador Heliodorus had set up or erected a pillar. ये NCERT का description है, and this pillar is being dedicated to Vaishnavism. ठीक है, तो what did they ask? They asked this. So Vijayanagar, Bhilsa, Vidisha, they are all names of same place. Now, how and where do you miss such things? Firstly, you don't appreciate and acknowledge the contribution done by different rulers. Specifically, when we understand this, that there was this Greek ambassador who had erected or constructed this pillar. So you have to give that kind of respect and acknowledgement that a Greek ambassador is converting or is being mesmerized by Vaishnav cult or faith, and he is erecting a pillar which is not looking like Indo-Greek but is dedicated to Hindu god. इस तरीके से when you will appreciate and value, so the things would stick in your mind rather than doing it very factually, one after the other. ये tendency होती है in most of the aspirants to just do the ratta, right? So you don't have to maro that ratta, you have to understand and make sense, because I still feel that history is about very limited things, right? Okay, so all of that was there in your NCERT. जैसे Buddhist caves, ये description है in your NCERT. What is mentioned? Bhaj caves, right? Sita Navasul, ये image भी दी हुई है. Cave number 12 Bhaj. So चैत्य, तो उन्होंने क्या बोला था? Cave shrine है. What is a चैत्य? Place of worship, है ना? Place of worship. Then only it becomes a shrine. Hana? So it is a place of worship. So there are caves which do not have chaitya also, right? So you have to again associate कि अगर UPSC या NCERT में लिखा हुआ है specifically chaitya and bhaja, so it was also a place of worship. ठीक है? Then you have in this very book what? Sita Navasil Pandyan phase paintings, and these are जैन, और यहाँ लिखा हुआ है जैन केव्स एट सीतानवासुल, ठीक है. नाउ अगेन 2023 में क्वेश्चन आया, इट इज अ स्टैटिक क्वेश्चन on the again important place associated with Buddhism. A Buddhist center which was a prominent center of Mahasangika school or Mahayana. This is what UPSC had asked, right? So they had given various places like Andhra, Gandhar, Kaling, Magad, है ना. अब क्वेश्चन क्या पूछ रहा है, क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है आउट ऑफ द प्लेसेस गिवन which flourished as a prominent Buddhist center under Mahasangikas. दिस इज दी क्वेश्चन. बहुतों को तो यही नहीं पता कि धन्यकटक है कहाँ, राइट. यही पूछ रहे हैं धन्यकटक, अ प्रोमिनेंट सेंटर ऑफ महासंगिका, वाज लोकेटेड वेयर. अगेन योर एनसीईआरटी, देयर इज अ मैप. दिस इज द चैप्टर किंग्स, फार्मर्स एंड टाउन्स, एंड देयर इज दिस मैप गिवन व्हिच मेंशंस धन्यकटक. अब आप कैसे इसको नोट करते? हाउ वुड यू हैव नोटेड? ऑब्वियसली इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू नोट एवरीथिंग, नो, है ना. नाउ व्हाट इज दिस मैप ऑल अबाउट? सम इंपॉर्टेंट किंगडम्स एंड टाउन्स. ऑफ व्हाट टाइम पीरियड इज इट टॉकिंग अबाउट? 600 BC to 600 AD, right? So with 600 what do we see? Rise of Buddhism and Jainism also, है ना. अब इस साइड में, आंध्र प्रदेश की साइड में, प्रेजेंट है आंध्र प्रदेश, तेलंगाना, व्हाट टाउन हैज बीन मेंशन्ड? धन्यकटक. अगेन दिमाग की घंटी बजनी चाहिए. धन्यकटक यहाँ तो मतलब अमरावती होना चाहिए था. व्हाई धन्यकटक? दैट मीन्स दे मस्ट हैव बीन आइदर आइडेंटिकल और समवेयर वेरी नियर टू इट, बिकॉज दिस इज द प्लेस वेयर सतवाहन्स also flourished. Yes or no? Am I making sense to you all? है ना. तो जब आप यहाँ देखते हो कि सतवाहन्स के यहाँ पर धन्यकटक लिखा हुआ है and rest all the places you are, अब जैसे चंद्रकेतुगढ़ has been mentioned and UPSC has asked twice question on चंद्रकेतुगढ़. कहाँ है? वेस्ट बंगाल में. उन्होंने दिया उड़ीसा. So again my point is, do the minimum and take the maximum. What you do the maximum and then end up confusing, right? So mostly you will get information from your NCERT only when you have that keen eye and sense also, right? तो धन्यकटक दिया हुआ है, तो धन्यकटक क्या है देखना चाहिए था गूगल में कि कहीं ये अमरावती तो नहीं है. So yes, Dhanyakatak was very much near to Amravati, and this place also served, Amravati served as a capital for Satvahans. It was a very prominent place of Mahasangika and Mahayana school of Buddhism, right? Amravati Stup is what it is associated with. That's it. कुछ करना ही नहीं है. Nature of questions ही ऐसे आते हैं, तो you don't have to go too deep in it. Which dynasty, which place, any architectural structure associated here or built here, है ना. Okay, then 2023 में क्वेश्चन पूछा, वेरी इजी क्वेश्चन ऑन जैनिज्म. इसका मुझे मैं चाहे ना भी बताऊं तो भी चलेगा, बिकॉज यू ऑल नो व्हाट इज जैनिज्म. नाउ द whenever you will read this, souls are not only the property of animal and plant life, but also of rocks, running water, and many other natural objects not looked on as living by other religious sect. That means which sect, religious faith considers life in almost every living and non-living thing? Jainism. यही तो बोल रहा है, soul is there not only in animal and plant life but also in rock, running water, and many other natural objects which no other religious sect looks into. This is the key difference and philosophy of Jainism, right? Again, अगर किसी ने पढ़ा है whether NCERT or from class notes, they will make sense of it, right? Buddhism इतना ज़्यादा नहीं बोलता है इसके बारे में. Shaivism would not talk about it. Vaishnavism would also not talk about it in that intensity what Jainism talks or regard life in animate and inanimate things. Again, I feel that if someone is reading this, they will understand and make sense out of it, right? Now, 2024 में Buddhist literature पूछा, a book or a commentary written by a Buddhist monk Sangabhuti. Difficult question है. But having said that, Buddhism, Jainism is a very important topic. So you have to go deep in it. You have to refer to sources also, right? Either again, rely on class notes or test series to expand your horizon over this subject. Otherwise, to tell you honestly, this is one book written by Upinder Singh. Maximum questions come from this book, right? Directly, एक passage है जिसमें दिया हुआ है that there were some monks which traveled to China and translated Buddhist works into Chinese language. And Sangabhuti was one scholar, Buddhist scholar from Kashmir, who went to China in around 381-84 AD. And on the request of, the kings there or other scholars, he translated Buddhist works into Chinese language, and his most important commentary was Sarvastivad Vinay. Sarvastivad is again a subsect of Buddhist faith, right? तो ये वहाँ पर दिया हुआ है. Now there are other names or monks also mentioned who travel to China. हो सकता है future में आ जाए, शायद इस साल ही आ जाए, right? So what they do usually is that they pick up one theme and they then make, let's say, 4-5 questions out of it. अब भाई अब कर कोई examiner है, वो एक question तो बनाएगा नहीं इस page से. He might have made 2-3 questions, 4 questions. That is what the logic and psyche reveals, that, there are questions made in pool, right? You may never know that, again, a question may come from this page also, right? Then there is this question on Sangam poems, a term associated with Sangam literature or poem. First, let me give you a perspective on Sangam age or Sangam literature. There has also been a question in 2022 on Sangam literature, right? Now, why I want to specifically highlight Sangam age or Sangam literature? Because, just to give you an example of how you should study. Now, why first, in the very first place, you think that UPSC asks from Sangam age, Sangam literature? What is Sangam literature? Acha, tell me. It is an important source of history which gives us an understanding about Sangam age. So from where do we get the knowledge of Sangam age? Through Sangam literature, mainly. So obviously, how the Sangam economy was, how the Sangam society was, how the Sangam religion was, Sangam polity, we'll get to know majorly from Sangam literature, apart from inscriptions, right? Apart from megaliths. Yes or no? So obviously, UPSC will give emphasis to Sangam literature, no? Right? How many times you have come across questions in test series, in UPSC on Sangam literature and Sangam age? Many times. Why do they not focus on polity of Sangam age? They don't know. So that means with every age of ancient India, medieval India, cultural aspect, there is a logic that why certain aspects are asked. This is that aspect. That if one wants to know about Sangam age, one has to know Sangam literature. Yes. Why polity is not emphasized? Because we do not have a connected political history of Sangam age. Whatever we derive, we have very limited accounts, right? तो वो polity से नहीं पूछेंगे इतना. ज़्यादा वो पूछ लेंगे कि भाई संगम चोलास, चेरास, पांड्यास का symbol क्या था, region क्या था, where were they located, but not of any battles. Very key important kings which may have been mentioned, right? That's about it. So you won't emphasize too much on administration of Sangam age, but what you would emphasize of administration of imperial Cholas, not Sangam Cholas, right? Are you making sense of this? So this clarity you should know. So for example, when we talk about Sangam literature, what kind of literature was it? सबसे पहले आपने एक माइंड मैप बनाना है about anything which you do. You do it for various subjects, you have to do it for AMC as well. So there are two kinds or nature of Sangam literature. One is narrative texts, and the other one is didactic texts. अब ये समझ में आएगा क्या है narrative text क्या होते हैं? It's coming from the word narration. So basically it will narrate these stories of life of people, right? It will have poems on love, that is Akkam, and war, that is Puram. जो डेली लाइफ ऑफ पीपल है, इकोनॉमी है, सोसाइटी है, दैट वुड बी नरेटेड in these texts. And how would you get to know it? What terms have been used, etc. etc. इसको बोलते हैं मिल्का नकू. 18 great texts. 18 great texts. अब ये 18 नंबर कैसे आया है? One is Itutogai, 8 anthologies, and Pattu Pattu, which are 10 idols. अब आप क्या करते हो? आप समझते नहीं हो. तो you must have come across Itutogai as 8 anthologies. So firstly, you have to make sense what is anthology, right? So anthology is a collection of poems, commentaries, stories, etc. Right? ये compilations है, volume wise, which gives us such kinds of stories, depictions, narrations. Idols क्या होती हैं? Short poems होती हैं, mainly on nature, mainly on rustic life, village life, right? Now, ये जो है, this is one of the part of classical Sangam literature, because apart from this, you have one grammar work known as Tolka PM. It is a grammar work, right? And together, that means Melkanaku and Tolka PM are classical Sangam literature, right? Now, what does didactic text mean? Didactic text means some kind of moral lessons, ठीक है? Philosophy, teachings to kings, people, etc. तो क्या है ये? Moral stories. तो यहां पर आएंगे आपकी epics, right? तो यहां पर है किल्का नक्कू, which is your minor texts, plus 5 great Sangam epics. कुछ नाम याद है आपको? Silpadikaram, yes. Manimegalai, Silpadikaram, मणि में गलई, जीवक चिंतामणि, सत्यपति and Kundal Kesi. Kundal Kesi. Now, Mani Meghalai and Kundal Kesi are based on Buddhist theme. And rest, Silpadikaram, Jivak Chintamani and Satyapati are, sorry, not Satyapati, Valyapati, are Jain, are based on Jain theme. ठीक है? Not Satyapati, Valyapati. So this is your Sangam literature. So this is classical Sangam literature and this is post-classical Sangam literature. Right? इस तरीके के mind maps help you in better understanding of things. Now, if you'll ask me, ma'am, you'll ask me that there are 8 anthologies, 10 idols. Do we have to remember what is part of which? No. वो कभी नहीं पूछेंगे. But having said that, there are 2 texts like Puranururu, right? वो इसका part है. एक बारी list देख लेना. Sometimes certain things would stick to your mind. ये पुनरुरु में ही अक्कम पुरम stories or poems हैं, right? So this is what and how you have to make sense. Clear? अब आते हैं question पे. So question is basically on term कि Vattakiruthal mentioned in Sangam poem explains what kind of practice. तो अब बहुतों को लगेगा, many of you would feel that we have to remember each and every term. No. Now, why have they asked Vattakiruthal? Because it explains or it gives you an evidence or example or characteristic why war was considered a very important thing. Why winning a war was considered very important. Why? Because there was this practice which is mentioned in your Sangam text, which tells that if the king gets defeated, he would commit suicide, right? And not only him, but his soldiers sometimes also accompanied him in this ritual suicide. So what message would it give to the society or the people if the king is committing suicide? That winning war or war is very, very important. Even if I have got defeated, it should not be considered as a message for the future generation that losing a war is acceptable. Right? So, इसीलिए certain terms which gives you that depiction or nature is to be learnt and memorized. ये हम नहीं करते हैं, मतलब आप नहीं करते हो, right? Because पता ही नहीं है that which term is important, right? So that's how you have to make your understanding. So it is the ritual suicide practice which was committed by the king if he got defeated in a battle. That is Vattakiruthal. अब 2022 में क्वेश्चन आया हुआ है on again one of the following statements about Sangam literature in ancient South India is correct, right? So this question is giving you the characteristic of Sangam society, right? ये question है तो 2022 का, but I want you to tell me what could be the answer, right? Sangam poems are devoid of any reference to material culture. अब मैंने आपको एक mind map दिया about Sangam literature, right? What is statement A saying where your attention should be? Sangam poems are devoid of any reference to material culture. मतलब कुछ economy या material culture था ही नहीं उनका, ऐसा हो सकता है? नहीं. तो A is wrong. What about B? The social classification of one, chalo, B to answer hai, chalo. C, Sangam poems have no reference to warrior ethic. ऐसा हो सकता है? नहीं. Sangam literature refers to magical forces as irrational. Now, the catch is, if you have not studied Sangam literature in detail or Sangam society, B or D में ही confusion होगी. Because D statement is a value judgment. कि वो क्या कंसिडर करते होंगे, मैजिकल फोर्सेस को रैशनल कंसिडर करते होंगे, इरैशनल कंसिडर करते होंगे, राइट? दिस इज व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज. हाउ वुड यू नो दैट वेदर दे वुड कंसिडर मैजिकल फोर्सेस एज रैशनल और इरैशनल इफ यू हैव नॉट रेड इट प्रॉपरली, है ना? तो बी और डी में ही कंफ्यूजन होगा. आंसर इज बी. सो यस, दे रेफर टू मैजिकल फोर्सेस एज रैशनल, नॉट इरैशनल. मतलब जादू करते थे, जादुई ताकतों में बिलीव करते थे, राइट? हम भी करते हैं. हैव यू कम अक्रॉस एनी रील वशीकरण ऑफ काइंड? आजकल है ना. अगर आपको अपने स्वयं को वश में करना है, paper UPSC, and I have also, and I'm not joking, I have come across this reel which also is luring students and aspirants that if you want to clear UPSC, come to us. So magic has now found place in UPSC examination also. It's become so deep, right? So please be very mindful. This jadoo is existing till date. So this is there in your Upinder Singh book. So as I told you that there is this poem in Puranuru which is part of your Milka Nakku, right? So there is this mention of Vattakirutal also, right? So this question came from this book, but again I feel that Sangam literature, Vijayanagar, Indus Valley, Buddhism, Jainism, they are so important themes that you have to do them very nicely, right? Okay. Then again literature पे question है. देवी चंद्रगुप्त, हमीर महाकाव्य, मिलिंद पन्ना, नीति काव्य मित्र, नीति वाक्य मित्र, right? Now, if you ask me, is there mention of these authors in your NCERT? Two of the authors are mentioned, yes. One is Bilhan, one is Vishak Dutt, जिनका ये देवी चंद्रगुप्त है, right? नागार्जुन नहीं, but Milind Panna is written by Nagsen, that's mentioned in your NCERT, right? So Devi Chandragupta is a work written by Vishak Dutt. His work Mudra Rakshasa has been mentioned or asked by UPSC in its previous year questions, right? So if any author, any scholar has been asked by UPSC, you have to prepare its works. That's again, you know, a repetition or a recurrent theme which you might get through the options in the future prelims paper, right? But having said that, is this question doable? Probably not. तो अगर बिल्कुल elimination का scope नहीं है, I would suggest that leave such questions because they are not going to reward you in your interest. It's not going to be favorable, right? Devi Chandragupta, as I told you, is written by Vishak Dutt. Hamir Mahakavya, written by Nayachand Suri. Milind Panna or Panno is written by Nagsen. Nagarjun is a Buddhist philosopher who has given this philosophy of Shunyata. Niti Vakyamitra is written by Somdev Suri. So 2 and 4 are correctly matched. I'm not going to go into the details of their works because that would take a lot of time. But what I mean by this is, this nature of question is factual, literature is factual. But क्या इस type के questions आते हैं? Yes, definitely. Would you be expecting to also know the theme of the works? Yes, there have been questions on only the theme कि उन्होंने theme दे दी and then you have to identify which work is being talked about. इस तरीके के भी literature based questions आते हैं, right? So you have to prepare it by keeping in mind the type of questions asked by UPSC, right? Okay. तो ये NCERT में दिया हुआ है. Indo-Greek ruler was Menander and his name was Milind. He had his capital at Sakal, modern day Sialkot in Punjab. He was converted to Buddhism by Nagsen, right? Nagsen was also known as Nagarjun. अब आप मेरे को बोलोगे मैम एनसीईआरटी में तो नागार्जुन दिया हुआ है, यूपीएससी हैड marked this option as wrong. What do we do? Usually we have to go with the perspective given by UPSC. Generally Nagarjuna is the Buddhist philosopher. ये उनका दूसरा नाम है, but UPSC would not trap in this thing. That's why UPSC gave or excluded Milind Panna to be written by Nagarjuna. Nagsen is what you have to associate. There has already been a question asked by UPSC in a single liner question, I think 1996 में पूछा था या 1997 में, I don't clearly remember the year, where they just had asked that this Milind Panna was written by. Again in the options they had given Nagarjuna and Nagsen. तो अगर Nagarjuna or Nagsen is given in the option, what would you mark? Nagsen. That means 20 years ago, they had considered Nagarjuna and Nagsen to be two different people or two different names. So why would they consider Nagarjuna as Nagsen now? Right? So this again is where you need to understand.
Preparation without mentoring is like sprinting blindfolded. You may be moving fast, but not always in the right direction. That's why Lakshya 2026 offers two focused mentoring paths. For aspirants targeting UPSC Prelims 2026, the Lakshya Prelims Mentoring Program starting 7th February gives prelims focused planning, regular test, mentor feedback and clear guidance on what to revise, what to skip and how to attempt the paper confidently. For those preparing for the entire UPSC journey, the Lakshya Integrated Mentoring Program beginning 30th January provides a stage-wise roadmap from prelims to mains to interview, with integrated current affairs, structured evaluations and continuous mentoring for steady progress. Two programs, two goals, one clear direction. Prepare with clarity, move forward with confidence. To register, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
Right? Now, coming to another type of question in literature. So now the question is on Vedic literature. This is a static plus current affairs question. Why current affairs? Because the inspiration to ask could have been on the kinds of news which had been coming before the question had been asked. So in 2023, lot of articles were coming in the newspaper where the teachings from Upanishads, Vedas, they were talked about, right? So that must have inspired again the paper setter to ask question on Vedic literature. ठीक है? अब question क्या है? अब someone who knows about Upanishads, what are they? They should be able to do it. But UPSC कुछ तो different करता है. कुछ ऐसे words लाएगा which you never come across to make it difficult, to make it unmanageable. So there, what is the first statement about? There are no parables in Upanishad. अब भाई English का word है, and that too parables. Not many of you would be familiar. जब भी ऐसा कुछ हो, see the Hindi if you can read Hindi. So what is parable? Niti Katha. So Upanishad, can you give me any example of Upanishads, message or a lesson which we have adopted in Satyamev Jayate, right? From Mundak Upanishad, right? तो वो Satyamev Jayate क्या है? Truth alone triumphs. वो क्या है? What is it? नीति कथा. How one should be. What is नीति? Come on. Ethical or moral, more pertaining to what should be done, dharm को uphold करने वाला, morals को uphold करने वाला, that is niti, right? So obviously when one is understanding that Upanishads deal with this, so how can there will be no parables in Upanishad? है ना? Second statement, Upanishads were composed earlier than the Puranas. This is correct. So that means they are not asking Vedic literature ka in which age or time period were they compiled or do they belong to, because it's very dicey, right? But what did they ask? Did Upanishads come first or Purans came first? What you focus कि हम याद करेंगे which year Upanishads period is to be understood, right? कब हुए हैं compiled, कब पुराण आए हैं. हाँ, approximate idea of a range of the time period should be known to you, right? So obviously they are all later Vedic texts. मतलब which time period are we talking about? 1000 BC onwards. Rig Ved or the 4 Vedas are from 1500 to 1000 BC. Clear? इतना पता होना चाहिए. Upanishads are end of Ved. उसके बाद philosophies आती हैं, stories आती हैं, morals आते हैं, right? Your Puranas, Smritis, Dharma Sutras, they all were compiled. क्यों? Can you tell me the reason why? Why am I saying, or you should have this understanding कि post Rigvedic times में, that is from 1000 BC onwards, we say that, you know, Puranas, Smritis, Sutras, जैसे धर्म सूत्रास were compiled. क्यों? Can you give me one logic? इस टाइम के बाद क्या हुआ? Come on. Iron discovery. What did iron discovery do? It led to cutting up of forests. Cutting up of forests around Indo-Gangetic plains. उससे क्या हुआ? The tribes or the clans settled around Indo-Gangetic plains. Yes. तो जो जनपद थे वो महाजनपद बन गए. Now what is this janpad? Jan is tribal clans when they set their foot. तो Vedic times में they were restricted to, let's say if this is the map of India, they were restricted to this area. But in Mahajanpad phase, they extended to this region also. ठीक है? जैसे अवंती, कौशल, मगध, they were very important महाजनपद्स. तो अब जब किंग्स और एम्पायर्स बनने लग गए, किंगडम्स आई, उनके लिए क्या हुआ? लॉ बुक्स कंपाइल कि आपको कैसे राज करना है. हाउ डू यू नीड टू रूल नाउ, कीपिंग व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एथिक्स, मॉरल्स. That is why they were compiled in this time period. Are you understanding this? This is logic. Rather than you ratifying again, नहीं, उपनिषद इस टाइम पे आए हैं, पुराणास बाद में आए हैं. Why Puranas are in the end or after उपनिषद? अब बनेंगे आपके धर्म सूत्र, अब आएंगे आपके एपिक्स, राइट? रामायण, महाभारत, क्योंकि अब किंगडम्स आई हैं, राइट? ओके. तो इस तरीके से यू नो यू हैव टू बिल्ड योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. सो द आंसर इज बी. देन अगेन अ वर्क और अ लिटरेचर बेस्ड क्वेश्चन. भाष has written which play? It is Madhyam Vyayog, right? Now again this question has been asked by or from this book. Bhash has been given in your NCERT as a playwright, but again you have to do that further decoding, right? So this is where again I feel one should spend their energies on. कि भाई काव्य अलंकार किसने लिखा है? नाट्य शास्त्र. Very very important from current affairs point of view this year. Why? नाट्य शास्त्र is very important. It's written by Bharat Muni. So any recent current affairs link with नाट्य शास्त्र? It has been inscribed in the UNESCO's Memory of World program alongside Bhagavad Gita, right? तो हो सकता है कुछ आ जाए वहाँ से, so you should be prepared. right? Then this is direct current affairs questions from culture. This is how the question looks like of pure current affairs. Which one of the following was the latest inclusion in the intangible cultural heritage list of UNESCO? Any recent inclusion to intangible cultural heritage list of UNESCO this year? Diwali or Deepavali has been the latest inclusion, right? So us time pe, when we are talking about 2024, Garba was the latest inclusion. तो आपको क्या करना है when news comes of this kind? Obviously I feel that you all prepare, but then you have to be mindful that this is not to be taken lightly. Ab now, one is this type of direct current affairs question, but I still feel general awareness or GK type of things should also be prepared. Because UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list is in the news for 2026-2025 year, so they may ask you which was the first item that was included in the UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list. Don't you think so? You should know this, right? Was there only one or more than one? Which was that year, right? So that is also, I feel, you should not give any loose end in your preparation or keep any loose end in your preparation, because agar aapne choda, these are again low hanging fruits. कि अगर किसी ने प्रिपेयर कर लिया उसको डायरेक्ट 2 मार्क्स आएंगे, राइट? ठीक है, सो यू कांट लेट लूज योर सेल्फ. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, in 2008, for the first time, 3 traditions were included in the UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list. One was Kudiyattam from Kerala, which was a performing art. Then tradition of Vedic chanting, again in 2008, and Ram Leela, again in 2008. So Ram Leela, Vedic chanting and Kudiyattam were the 3 first entries in the UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list. ज़्यादा वो यही पूछेंगे. Secondly, वो क्या पूछ सकते हैं? How many entries are part of this list? 16 entries with Diwali. Total 16 entries. वो दे देंगे more than 30 items are part of it, more than 20 items are part of it. तो इस तरीके की भी preparation you need to know, right? मैंने सारी list दे दी है. You can just go through after downloading it, or you can Google it also. But another catch which I would like to show you. So in 2013, Sankirtan was included in the UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list, right? There was a question in 2017. अब आप बोलोगे मैम 13 और 17 का कोई रिलेशन नहीं है. I also know नहीं है. But जैसे मैंने बोला कि the questions are made, but when they come, you never know, right? तो संकीर्तन ही क्यों? Because it's part of UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list also. Why Sankirtan? It is a classical dance also. Is it? Or is it not? ऐसे मत करो. Classical dances तो पता होने चाहिए. मैं नहीं बताऊंगी. This is your thing to do, right? But having said that, Sankirtan is part of UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list. ठीक है, तो क्वेश्चन आते हैं, यहाँ से भी आते हैं. Similarly, another thing which I would like to show you and enlighten you about is that there is this tradition of craft making or utensil making also, right, which is being given inscription in this list, and that is traditional brass and copper utensil making by Thateras community of Punjab. Now, why am I showing you this? Because there has been a question long back, 2006 में आया था question Manganiyar caste पे, right, or Manganiyar community पे. Now that was a community, musical community belonging to Rajasthan, right? So if any community or any tribe which has been given place in some UNESCO list due to their making of something or participation, so that community could also be asked. तो एक single liner question आ सकता है. Thateras community belongs to or is a community associated with, right? तो वो दे देंगे shawl making और handicraft. Handicraft नहीं है, utensil making है, right? तो इस तरीके के questions आ सकते हैं. So this is where again I feel that they are very easy to do, not too much of things are there, and they are very much important to get those 2 marks if question comes on these lines, right? So this is one aspect. Now, coming to the backlog nominations. Yes, you do have to also see and skim through what all traditions are in the backlog nominations. Just to give you an example, there is this shadow puppetry which has been part of backlog nominations. Now, when you do puppetry, if you have to focus your energy, you have to focus more on shadow puppetry. कौन कौन से puppetry है? Rod puppetry, string puppetry and shadow puppetry and glove puppetry, right? तो shadow puppetry पे आपको ज़्यादा ध्यान देना है. At least the forms and the state with which they are associated, right? Why? Because it's part of your nominated list of UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage. There has already been a question asked on Kalamkari paintings in 2015. There has already been a question asked on Satriya dance. तो इसका मतलब इस लिस्ट में जो है वो चीजें भी वो पूछ लेते हैं, right? अब now your question would be, do we have to remember all the forms? No. और अगर करना भी है, only the nature of the forms and the state with which they are associated. Kalamkari वैसे भी न्यूज़ में रहता है. Satriya dance again is a classical dance, right? So you just go through it. अगर आपको समझ में आ रहा है, जैसे रथवा is a tribal dance, so that means it is a tribe also of Gujarat region. ठीक है? Questions are factual, pair में ही पूछते हैं, right? So you just need to prepare what, in which form the UPSC asks questions, right? Now, again, current affairs based question. Consider the following properties. Now, this is about World Heritage Site list, right? अब जैसे when you are doing, let's say, current affairs. Current affairs में UNESCO has come in different forms every year. And this year or last year specifically, there is this UNESCO's World Heritage Site. तो एक mind map बना लो. तो एक यूनेस्को का क्या है? वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट लिस्ट. दूसरा क्या है? इंटैंजिबल कल्चरल हेरिटेज लिस्ट. दूसरा क्या न्यूज़ में आया है? यूनेस्कोज मेमोरी ऑफ वर्ल्ड प्रोग्राम. राइट? Then you also have UNESCO's, ये एक्स्ट्रा बता रही हूँ, यूपीएससी ने पूछ लिया है इस पे 2014 में, आइकॉनिक साड़ी वीविंग क्लस्टर. ठीक है? So when you come across any initiative related to UNESCO, do the current affairs, do the static general awareness of it. एक बारी notes बनेंगे और वो खत्म हो जाएगा. Because almost every year or every second year there is a question from UNESCO also. This cluster is about UNESCO identifying certain sari weaving towns in India. जैसे बनारसी साड़ी के लिए बनारस is famous, पैठानी साड़ी के लिए पैठन is famous. So certain centers of sari weaving have been identified, right? And this question has been asked by UPSC in 2014. ठीक है? तो this is how you can do things. ये होता है when you streamline your UPSC PYQs alongside your preparation, right? So what did they ask? How many of the above properties were included in 2023? अब वो ये थोड़ी पूछेंगे कि 2000 में क्या include हुआ था. They'll ask the current affairs of it, right? So in 2023, Shanti Niketan and Hoysala's sacred ensembles were included. So only 2. Clear? अब कौन सी साइट है? How many sites are there? World Heritage sites. Abhi recently, which site has been included in the list? Come on, Maratha military landscape. It has become 44th site. उससे पहले Assam's Charaideo Moidams, 43rd site. Shanti Niketan is 41st and Hoysala ensembles 42nd. तो ये याद नहीं करना है 41 कौन सी है 42 क्या है, बट रीसेंट वंस, राइट. रीसेंट वन इज मराठा मिलिट्री लैंडस्केप, राइट. उससे पहले असम्स चराइदियो मोइदम. फिर आते हैं आपके 2023 में शांति निकेतन एंड होयसालास. क्लियर. नंबर पता होना चाहिए. ये जो मैप है इसमें मराठा मिलिट्री लैंडस्केप्स नहीं है, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, बट रेस्ट ऑल आर देयर. ठीक है. तो दैट मीन्स यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर योर मराठा मिलिट्री एज वेल एज मराठास फ्रॉम medieval Indian history perspective also, because you may get question because it is in news, right. Now again 2025 में they asked a question. Again this is a static plus current affairs. अब आप बोलोगे static, how come this is static? We've not seen it in any book yet. So this is the book which is again NCERT, a new NCERT which has been published by NCERT, right. Its name is Knowledge, Traditions and Practices of India Part 1, class 11th की textbook है. Very very important from examination point of view, all the more because there has been a question in 2025 from this book. अभी बहुतों को पता नहीं है about this book, but paper setter को पता है, right. And paper setter will use this book. And not because he will use, you have to do, because it is a book which gives you a lot of chapters which are not giving you that compiled knowledge. For example, there is an exclusive chapter on language and literature. There is an exclusive chapter on philosophy. वो आपकी किसी और NCERT में नहीं है, right? Music. All of that is part of this book. अब पूछा क्या था 2025 में, UPSC had asked the first Gandharva Mahavidyalaya, a music training school, was set up in 1901 by Vishnu Digambar Paluskar in. Where did he set up this college or school, right? ये इस बुक में क्या मेंशन है? पंडित VD Paluskar started Gandharva Mahavidyalaya in Lahore. Box, मैंने बोला ना box, never skip box. Image, ये सेपरेट बॉक्स में है, राइट. ऐसे ही नहीं बोल रही हूँ मैं. देन इट वॉज इन द न्यूज ऑल्सो, बट हैविंग सेड दैट इट वॉज इन द न्यूज, द न्यूज पेपर्स विच कैरिड दिस इंफॉर्मेशन आर नॉट द न्यूज पेपर्स विच यू रीड यूजुअली. और मैं ये नहीं बोल रही हूँ आप सारी न्यूज पढ़ सकते हो, बट इफ द क्वेश्चन हैज बीन फ्रेम्ड, इट हैज बीन फ्रेम्ड फ्रॉम दिस बुक, राइट. न्यूज में इसलिए था बिकॉज ऑफ द 150th बर्थ एनिवर्सरी ऑफ विष्णु दिगंबर पलुस्कर, राइट. ठीक है. नाउ VD Paluskar also has a lot of contribution to play in music. Specifically, you must have come across this Bhajan Raghupati Raghav Rajaram, right? It's again associated with VD Paluskar. He had sung its original version. He belongs to Hindustani classical music. Then he has something to do with Vande Mataram also. Now Vande Mataram national song is in the news again. So again you have to understand his contribution, not from the perspective of Vande Mataram only, but otherwise also this book is important and you have to prepare separately Vande Mataram, right? तो ये सब चीज़ें हैं which you should not skip. Now coming to another question from culture, very easy question, इसके बारे में मैं कुछ नहीं बोलूँगी. Dancing girl किस मेटल की बनी है या मटेरियल की बनी है which you see in Mohenjo-daro? Carnelian, clay, bronze और gold. Very easy question. Bronze dancing girl. But again जो आप mistake करते हो. So when we do Harappan or Indus Valley civilization, let's say we have to see what all sculptures or crafts that were part of it, right? क्या sculptures थे बताओ? Of which material? Terracotta, obviously bronze and clay. ब्रॉन्ज का सिर्फ डांसिंग गर्ल नहीं था, अब यहीं पर कैच है, बट देयर वॉज ऑल्सो अ ब्रॉन्ज bull. Terracotta, mother goddess figures, right? Clay figures, clay toy carts, right? So these were the materials that were used. ज़्यादा तो नहीं है ये material. और ये NCERT में भी given है. बस इसी तरीके का एक mind map बनाना है. What are the prominent figures and the material used? Although I still feel that the question was very easy, easiest of all. इससे ज़्यादा easy कुछ हो नहीं सकता है आपकी life में when it comes to prelims, right? But still I feel कि when they have asked dancing girl, you should know कि bronze का एक और figure था and that was bull, right? So this is where again I feel that you should make sense when you're reading your NCERT. तो chapter का नाम ही क्या है? Arts of Indus Valley. तो क्या है? Clay, stone statues. ये bearded priest बहुत important है. तो इसका मतलब stone, clay, terracotta, bronze. बस ये 4 मटीरियल याद रखने हैं. स्टोन का कौन सा इंपॉर्टेंट है? बियर्डेड प्रीस्ट, राइट? टेराकोटा का मदर गॉडेस. इमेज जहां जहां दी हुई है वो याद रखना है, राइट? देन सी मदर गॉडेस, टेराकोटा. ब्रॉन्ज, डांसिंग गर्ल. ब्रॉन्ज, बुल. इसी तरीके से you will be confident. Now coming to 6 questions of ancient Indian history, how the questions have been. Now when it comes to ancient Indian history, what are the important themes which UPSC usually asks questions on? So in the last 10-13 years, there are very limited themes which are asked by UPSC from ancient Indian history. One is obviously Indus Valley civilization. Second is, कौन सा होगा Indus Valley के बाद? Tell me. Mauryas, specifically Ashok. उसमें भी edicts. And उसमें भी his name. Right? Third, obviously after Mauryan Empire, which was the biggest empire of ancient India, Guptas. Right? What could be next? अब आप उसको या तो कल्चर में डालो फ्रॉम संगम लिटरेचर पर्सपेक्टिव, वैदिक एज को वैदिक लिटरेचर कल्चर में डालो, इट्स योर कॉल. Because we get to know about again Vedic society, economy from Vedic literature. है ना? इसी तरीके से संगम एज from संगम literature. But है ये ancient India का part. इतना ही है. And one more thing is that in these themes you get questions on important sites or places. Now I want to understand from you, before we see the questions asked by UPSC from these themes, why and what do you think IBC would be asked from which perspective? Although in the last 3 years there has not been a question except that bronze dancing girl, but there have been many questions before 2023, right? So what do you think they would be focusing upon? What is Indus Valley civilization? About Indus Valley. Where is Indus Valley? On a riverside of Indus, right? Why was it known as Harappan civilization? Why was it known as civilization in the very first place? What is civilization? It was the first civilization which we see in the Indian subcontinent. Very good. But I want to know, what is a civilization which has material culture? Very good. Or kuch? Organized, developed, rules, regulations, some centralized authority. यही तो पूछेंगे ना वो. The chief characteristic of Indus Valley civilization comes from the very word civilization. So what kind of civilization was it? Town and urban planning was the main element which characterized Indus Valley civilization. Now when we say town and urban planning, तो markets होंगी. अर्बन होगा, यस और नो, इकोनॉमी पे फोकस करेंगे वो, राइट, यस और नो. सो फ्रॉम दिस अंडरस्टैंडिंग यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड IVC. What kind of people were there? What kind of society was Indus Valley civilization seeing? यही पूछेंगे वो. अब जब नेचर ही उसका क्या है, टाउन एंड अर्बन प्लानिंग, तो क्या वहां पर टेम्पल्स होंगे? नहीं होंगे ना, राइट. व्हाट एल्स? वॉर होगा? एम्पायर नहीं थी वो, ट्रेडिंग कम्युनिटीज थी, तो वॉर भी नहीं होगा. Right? So what would they ask? They have asked this question only by comparing it with Rig Vedic age or people of Rig Ved. There has been a question asked by UPSC in 2013, if I'm not wrong, that the people of Indus Valley people had large palaces and great temples. Statement गलत है. पूछा ही क्यों? यही क्यों पूछा? Temples and palaces, because it is not the characteristic of Indus Valley civilization. तो पढ़ना तो बस इतना ही है कि उसका नेचर क्या है. उसके बाद द बॉल इज इन योर कोर्ट. दैट्स व्हाई आई फील दैट इट इज वेरी लिमिटेड. यू नो, इफ यू आस्क मी, it's very, very limited if you understand the concept of each dynasty or phase. But you dig out facts like a rat hole mining करते हैं हम, न्यूज़ में भी है, वो आप करते हो, वो नहीं करना है, ठीक है. Similarly, Mauryas. Why in Mauryan age do they focus on Mauryan administration? First, Mauryan Empire was the first empire of ancient India. इससे पहले हम तो स्टोन एज में थे, इससे पहले हम वैदिक फेज में थे, एम्पायर्स नहीं थी. तो ऑब्वियसली वो फर्स्ट बिग एम्पायर को तो पूछेंगे, और उसमें भी विच डायनेस्टी? मौर्यास, और उसमें भी अशोक. तो गलत कहाँ कर रहे हैं वो? कहाँ गलती कर रहे हैं वो कर रहे हैं गलती? नहीं, वो तो इंपॉर्टेंट ही पूछ रहे हैं, आप उसको नहीं समझ पा रहे हो, एंड यू आर डूइंग एवरीथिंग अराउंड इट, राइट. दिस इज वेयर यू हैव टू कम टू वन डायरेक्शन, अंडरस्टैंड द नेचर, और बस कुछ नहीं है, राइट. व्हाट अबाउट गुप्तास? वो क्यों पूछेंगे इकोनॉमिक टर्म्स गुप्तास से? Again, Roman trade links, Golden Age, coins, architecture, they are all significant aspect of Guptas. Why kings? Their contribution. Why the travelers? Because they have told something about it. Right? बस. Sangam Age. अब ये कितना है ancient India? 4 chapters. Only 4 chapters. और आप कहाँ भाग रहे हो? You have to see. Only 4 chapters. This is the basic minimum and the most important extent of ancient India. ये तो पूछेंगे ही ना, right? There can be random questions also. I'm not saying that this is what is ancient India, but then it would be difficult for all then. You have to find your basic minimum to take out maximum scores. Do minimum, extract maximum, right? Now let's see the questions. Who among the following rulers in ancient India had assumed the titles of Mattavilas, Vichitrachit, Gunabhar? So although it is coming in your Pallav dynasty, मिडीवल इंडिया, बट क्योंकि एंशंट लिखा है इसलिए मैंने एंशंट में डाला है, बट है पल्लव रूलर्स के बारे में. फ्रॉम दिस बुक, डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन, ठीक है. महेंद्र वर्मन 1 ही क्यों? बिकॉज ऑफ हिज कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन इन टेम्पल बिल्डिंग, राइट. क्या लिखा है? महेंद्र वर्मन 1 विद न्यूमरस टाइटल्स एज विचित्रचित, चित्रकरपुली, चैत्यकरी. अब आ गया एनसीईआरटी से क्वेश्चन, कहीं से बाहर से नहीं पूछा उन्होंने, राइट. अगेन आई फेल्ट दैट दिस वाज very much under your control, but because you go here and there random sources, वो जो 3 कहानियां मैंने आपको बताई हैं, I believe in it totally that you all are running after different sources, come to one और फिर आप देखना magic. 4 chapters, very limited themes, and you will see the rewards, right? So Mahendra Varman 1, Pallav king, very, very important. His inscription, Mandagapattu, tells about his achievements. For example, he was very curious-minded, for which he was known as Vichitrachit. He had also constructed a temple. He's also known for constructing rock-cut architecture, right? So rock-cut temples is what he constructed. Okay? He has also been a scholar, right? That too in Sanskrit language. His very important work is Matta Vilas Parhasanam, very, very important, right? So, इस तरीके से you have to prepare certain rulers, certain dynasties, right? Then, Fayan, Chinese traveler, traveled to India during the reign of. ये भी NCERT का question है, अब इससे easy क्या ही पूछेंगे वो, right? But having said that, how the kind of questions have been asked from ancient and medieval Indian history from travelers, they ask about the revelations they have done, mainly the accounts, right? किनके time पे आए हैं, then which profession, which country they belong to. That is also very, very important. If they are pilgrims, you need to understand who are pilgrims. If they are scholars, you need to understand that they were scholars. If they are merchants, you need to know their profession. So, 3 things in travelers: whose reign and dynasty, what accounts have they given, obviously accounts दे रहे हैं, कोई book लिखी है वो भी पता होना चाहिए, and then their profession, right? NCERT का ही है, दिया हुआ है सब कुछ NCERT में, तो आप ये देख सकते हो. Now, ये कौन से phase of history का question है? Yes. 600 to 322, very important phase from which questions come. इसी phase में Buddhism, Jainism है, इसी phase में आपके जनपद महाजनपद हैं, इसी phase में after that we see the rise of Mauryas, right? So this phase is very important from ancient Indian history perspective, right? क्या पूछ रहे हैं? Regions and rivers. At least एक map की citing तो deserve करता है ये question. At least, मतलब this topic, है ना? So someone knows Asmak or Kamboj. Although ये NCERT में भी मिल जाएगा आपको, you will get it in your Upinder Singh also. Is this map visible to you? This is Kamboj. ठीक है? तो ये कौन सी river के पास होगा? What have they given in the option? Kamboj in Vipas. Which is Vipas river? Beas river. Where is Beas? Himachal. तो हिमाचल और कंबोज और गंधार में तो बहुत डिफरेंस है, राइट? हियर इज अस्मक, गोदावरी रिवर, राइट? तो अगेन मैप्स, ज्योग्राफी एंड द रिलेशन विद हिस्ट्री, यूपीएससी ने मेंस में ही पूछ लिया है क्वेश्चन. अब तो मैप्स पे फोकस करना ही पड़ेगा. वैसे भी विदाउट मैप्स यू शुड नॉट मेक सेंस आउट ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, राइट? So it's not a difficult question, I feel. It's just that, you are not having that kind of relation with history. पता नहीं क्यों इतना दुश्मनी है आपकी. Why are you treating history with so much of hate that you don't prepare it? I feel it's very limited. इतना sweet सा subject है. कुछ नहीं करना है. Pictures देखनी है, boxes देखने हैं, NCERT पढ़नी है. That's it. 4 चैप्टर्स करने हैं, कुछ चीज़ें कल्चर में करनी है, कुछ मिडीवल में करनी है. इससे शॉर्ट एंड स्वीट कुछ है ही नहीं लाइफ में. बोर हो गए, डांस देख लेना. बोर हो गए, आर्किटेक्चर देख लेना. दैट्स इट, है ना? ओके, तो आंसर क्या है इस क्वेश्चन का? यस, अस्मक, गोदावरी. कंबोज इज नॉट रिवर ब्यास. अवंती एमपी में है, महानदी Odisha, right? So Kamboj, Avanti, wrong. Kaushal, Saryu River, yes, northern and southern territory of Kaushal, which is also the region of अवध लखनऊ, राइट, कौशल महाजनपद, ये भी न्यूज में है. वाई लखनऊ इज इन द न्यूज? यस. अरे एक और भूल गई आपको बताना. हाँ, कौन सा गैस्ट्रोनॉमी भाई, कौन से फ्रेमवर्क का है वो? यूनेस्कोज कल्चर क्या, क्रिएटिव सिटी नेटवर्क, ये भी यूनेस्को का है. यूनेस्कोज क्रिएटिव सिटी नेटवर्क, UCCN, राइट. तो देखो इतने सारे हैं यूनेस्को के एंड दे आर मोस्टली इन द न्यूज, राइट. नेक्स्ट, Ashok inscriptions or Ashokan inscriptions suggest that Prateshika, Rajuka and Yukta were important officers at the village level, district level, provincial level of the central administration. 2025 में पूछा, why? What is the current affairs linked to it? Ashokan edicts, inscriptions were made part of tentative list of UNESCO's World Heritage Site. टेंटेटिव लिस्ट, उसमें गुप्ता टेम्पल्स भी हैं. तो इसका मतलब गुप्ताज और अशोकन एडिक्ट्स हैव बिकम वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट. तो अगर 2025 में 2024 में सॉरी 24-25 में दे हैव बीन मेड पार्ट ऑफ टेंटेटिव लिस्ट. व्हाट इज टेंटेटिव लिस्ट? येट टू बी नॉमिनेटेड. ये पता है आपको? इंस्क्राइब्ड लिस्ट और रिप्रेजेंटेटिव लिस्ट मीन्स फाइनल लिस्ट. Tentative or nominated list means yet to be included in the final or representative list. ठीक है? For those who don't know it, I'm just writing it down these terms so that there is no confusion. When it comes to UNESCO's World Heritage list, there are few terms which you need to associate with. तो एक होता है final list और एक होता है आपका नॉमिनेटेड लिस्ट. व्हाट इज फाइनल लिस्ट? जिसमें एंट्री मिल गई है, राइट. इसको रिप्रेजेंटेटिव लिस्ट भी बोलते हैं, मतलब दे हैव बीन रिप्रेजेंटेटेड इन द लिस्ट. इसको इंस्क्राइब्ड लिस्ट भी बोलते हैं, मतलब दे हैव बीन इंस्क्राइब्ड एंड बीन गिवन अ प्लेस इन द फाइनल लिस्ट. नॉमिनेटेड लिस्ट होती है या टेंटेटिव लिस्ट होती है. तो मैंने ये बोला है दैट अशोकन इंस्क्रिप्शंस और एडिक्ट्स एंड गुप्ता टेम्पल्स हैव बीन इंक्लूडेड इन द टेंटेटिव लिस्ट इन 24-25 ईयर. सो दैट मीन्स इट इज पार्ट ऑफ योर करंट अफेयर्स. इसीलिए 2025 में देयर वाज अ क्वेश्चन ऑन अशोकन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. अब ऐसा ही नहीं कुछ पूछ लिया उन्होंने, ये इसलिए पूछा बिकॉज प्रदेशिका, राजुका एंड युक्ता वर और हैव बीन मेंशन्ड इन दी रॉक एडिक्ट्स, जिसको यूनेस्को हैज पुट इन टेंटेटिव लिस्ट. ठीक है. अब जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल देयर वाज दिस PDC 65 और करंट अफेयर्स में न्यूज ऑन यूनेस्को वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट. क्या है? 2025 में इंडियाज टेंटेटिव लिस्ट हैज एडेड दीज ऑल आइटम्स. कौन से? मुडुमल मेनहिर, मतलब मुडुमल पता होना चाहिए एज अ प्लेस बिकॉज यू डू गेट क्वेश्चंस ऑन इंपॉर्टेंट प्लेसेस एंड साइट्स, राइट. मेगालिथिक साइट है, मेनहिर इज अ मेगालिथ. व्हाट इज अ मेगालिथ? बिग स्टोन बरियल साइट, राइट. Kanger Valley National Park in Chhattisgarh, Ashokan edicts which are found in multiple states, 64 Yogini temples of. Now firstly, there has already been a question on 64 Yogini temple of Morena. Then what do you get from here? That there are many 64 Yogini temples across different parts of India. The ones which are in Madhya Pradesh and Odisha have been inscribed or have been put in place in tentative list. Gupta temples have been included in the tentative list. Palaces or forts of Bundels in MP and UP. अब UPSC ने क्या पूछा था? राजुका, प्रदेशिका and Yuktas. Ashokan edicts had come in the news. क्या है ये? Major rock edicts. Third rock edict में क्या mention है? प्रदेशिका और Rajuka. So they are district level officers. राइट तो इसका मतलब ये स्टैटिक प्लस करंट अफेयर्स का ब्लेंड है. That is how UPSC is mixing questions, right? Again, coming to site related question, right? Chandraketugarh, मैंने NCERT में मैप में भी दिखाया था. Where was it? West Bengal. तो 1 तो गलत हो गया. इनाम गांव, चालकोलिथिक साइट है, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, अगेन गिवन इन योर NCERT. मंगड़ू, ये नहीं है, दिस इज इन योर उपिंदर सिंह, बट इट इज अ मेगालिथिक साइट ऑफ Kerala. Salihundam, this is a very important site, but it is not a rock cut cave shrine, right? So this is how the questions are asked. There has already been a question on Chandraketugarh, as I told you, right? उस time पे भी आपको पता होना चाहिए what is it famous for, right? उसका place, उसका location. So there is a pattern of UPSC in asking the repeated themes. There has also been a mention of Chandraketugarh in your current affairs when this question was asked, right? Because the government had planned to set up a heritage panel there, right? So you do get news if related to any place, then that place becomes important. अब जैसे ये book में उपिंदर सिंह के में यहाँ पर there is mention of megaliths at Mangadu, Kerala. But is this feasible? No, it's not feasible, right? But having said that, there are certain important sites which you should know, है ना, वो पता होनी चाहिए आपको, right? जब ऐसे questions आते हैं, if you're thorough with some of the things, then you should take a risk and eliminate जहाँ तक कर सकते हो, right? How many होगा तो elimination would become difficult for you, right? Next. Again, static plus current affairs 2023 में there was a question on ancient port sites of Korkai, Pumpahar, Muchiri. They are important. Sangam, age, port sites. Sangam economy से related है. Again, this is having some reference of current affairs. What is the news? Ancient port city of Pumpahar traced under sea. कौन सा year है? 2023 January. Question कब आया? 2023 में. Right? तो है link भाई. Again, this question is very conventional and traditional, but I feel that, you know, why this question? है ना? Then coming to medieval India. Again, 6 questions are there in the last 3 years. Let me first give you the themes which are very, very important from medieval India, the way we did ancient India. So medieval India, UPSC themes. One, of course, your Delhi Sultanate. Second, your Mughals. Third, your regional dynasties. Specifically that were independent during the times of Delhi Sultanate and Mughals. कौन सी हैं वो? Like Hoysalas, like Kakatiyas, like Vijayanagar. Deccan Sultanate. Question आया नहीं है in the last 10 years, so I'm not including. Next, imperial. Cholas and Pallavas. And of course, the architecture related to all of them. The cultural aspects related to all of them. Right? Jैसे paintings of Mughals, architecture of Delhi Sultanate, they are important. Right? Again, the sites would become very important here. Cultural aspects become important. Administration becomes important. I just need to again take your 1 or 2 minutes and attention here. So I said administration. Why do you think UPSC focuses on Delhi Sultanate administration? Ikta पे पूछ रहे हैं, जमींदारी पे पूछ रहे हैं, मनसबदारी पे पूछ रहे हैं. Why? जागीरदारी. Because Delhi Sultanate and Mughals were foreign origin dynasties which ruled India for quite a long time. They could not have ruled without having an elaborate or unique administration. They would not have been able to do it without military. They would not have been able to do it if we are not making sense of invasions that happened during that time, right? तो Mongols invasion पे question आएगा, right? Specifically from the time period of Delhi Sultanate. है ना? So the challenges which they faced would be asked by UPSC because that's the characteristic of that time period. राइट तो अगर उन्होंने कोई आर्किटेक्चर बनाया है, पेंटिंग्स करा है, सो दैट इज ऑल पार्ट ऑफ आवर कल्चरल लेगेसी, दैट्स व्हाई दे विल फोकस ऑन दैट. यस, ऑब्वियसली देयर आर वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स बिल्ट ड्यूरिंग द टाइम्स ऑफ मुगल्स, तो वो वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स पता होनी चाहिए. अब ये थोड़ी आप बोलोगे कुतुब मीनार क्यों पूछ लिया, हुमायूं फोर्ट क्यों पूछा, सॉरी हुमायूं टूम, राइट? So they have been part of our cultural historical legacy, so they will ask questions from that time period. When it comes to imperial Cholas and Pallavas ka biggest contribution is in culture, specifically temples, so they focus on temples, the rulers which have contributed in cultural aspects. When we talk about Cholas, they were the dynasty which was imperial in nature. What does that mean? और किसी के आगे तो imperial नहीं लिखा. Why imperial? Because they controlled some parts of Indian subcontinent as well. They went till Sri Vijaya Empire or Indonesia, Sri Lanka. तो क्या नहीं पूछेंगे वो, ये पूछेंगे, right? So focus on the dynasty's nature, characteristic. वहीं से सवाल आते हैं. Not everything under the sun they are asking, right? Similarly, Hoysalas, क्या पूछेंगे? Rulers and culture. Kakatiyas, economy, right? Vijayanagar पे everything they have asked. Taxation भी पूछा है, society भी पूछा है, status of women भी पूछा है, architecture भी पूछा है, rulers भी पूछा है. So that means you have to do everything. At least इतनी dynasties है ना. So if you treat them as 1 chapter each, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chapters. उसमें कितने थे? 4 chapters. क्या है ये? कितने chapters आप करते हो geography में और environment में, economics में? Tell me honestly, how much do you do it? Can you count? No. You can count AMC. You can certainly count them on fingers. है ना? तो बस यही करना है, यही बेसिक मिनिमम है, और मैक्सिमम भी आपके केस में, apart from your PYQs options and test series questions. Now 2025 में what did they ask? They asked about the successful military campaign which was undertaken by which Chola ruler through to Sri Vijaya Empire, right? So it was Rajendra I Chola. Why have they asked this question? NCERT में मिलेगा इसका आंसर, but current affairs. Why? Port Blair was renamed as Sri Vijayapuram. अब भाई है, हिस्ट्री का भी नाता है, लेना देना है करंट अफेयर से, तो प्लीज just do it from different perspectives, right? I have shown you, I am showing this with full sources to make you understand the gravity or intensity, how UPSC is, integrating current affairs with history, right? Question लग नहीं रहा है current affairs का, right? But है current affairs का, ठीक है? तो उन्होंने यही पूछा ना, श्री विजयपुरम में किसने एक्सपेडिशन लेड करा था, राइट? सो इट वाज राजेंद्र वन. ऑल द मोर रीजंस दिस इंपीरियल चोलास हैव कम इन द न्यूज़ बिकॉज ऑफ चोलागंगम लेक, राइट? ऑल द मोर important because Prime Minister has visited the place. So imperial cholas have become again very very important. अब आएगा तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, नहीं आएगा तो नेक्स्ट ईयर देख लेना, राइट? Another empire or dynasty based question, which is dwelling into the contribution of the ruler Vijayanagar. So among the following rulers of Vijayanagar constructed a large dam across Tungabhadra river and canal cum aqueduct several kilometers long from the river to the capital city. अब इसको आप factual भी समझ सकते हो, but मैं इसको fact नहीं देखती हूँ. Why? Now talking about Vijayanagar Empire, how do you explain Vijayanagar Empire's growth? Pehli cheez, they legitimize their rule on the basis of religion, that they are ruling on behalf of God. Second, they stabilized economy. How they could have stabilized economy and could have become bigger? By investing into agriculture and irrigation. इरिगेशन वहां पर कैसे हुआ? थ्रू कैनाल्स. तो उन्होंने क्या पूछा है? दैट विच वाज द रूलर और हु वाज द रूलर हु सेट अप सच अ बिग कैनाल फ्रॉम तुंगभद्र टू द कैपिटल सिटी टू फीड द कैपिटल एंड द पीपल ऑल अलोंग साइड. ये क्या बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं है? बड़ी बात है ये. यस और नो? यस, बट हमने ऐसे पढ़ा नहीं है. मतलब आपने नहीं पढ़ा ऐसे. आपने क्या, आप कैसे पढ़ते हो जैसे कोई एक फैक्ट है. मैं आई अगेन एंड अगेन सेइंग दिस, यू फील द डायनेस्टी, you understand the pulse, the contribution. Facts are very limited. You will then make sense what is important and what is not important. So Devaraya 1. कहाँ पर है अगेन इन योर NCERT? ठीक है. देन व्हाट आर दे आस्किंग? अब कोई भी हिस्ट्री का क्वेश्चन विदाउट क्रोनोलॉजी हो नहीं सकता है. एंड व्हाट हैव दे आस्क्ड? काकटियाज, होयसालाज. हाउ मेनी ऑफ द अबव डायनेस्टीज एस्टैब्लिश्ड देयर किंगडम्स अर्ली 8th century? अगर किसी को होयसाला और काकटिया पता है, so they are all from 11, 12, 13, 14th century. Even Gaharwals. So when we talk about early 8th century is very significant phase in the transition, to understand the transition from ancient to medieval. उस time पे 750 AD is a very significant year which is famous for tripartite struggle. उसमें 3 dominant dynasties थी. कौन सी? राष्ट्रकूटस, पालास and गुज्जर प्रतिहार्स, है ना? उसके बाद ही डायनेस्टीज आई हैं, that too in 10th 11th century. तो ये सारी, ये क्या पूछ रहे हैं? कौन सा टाइम पीरियड? ये थी? नहीं थी. इफ यू मेक सेंस ऑफ 750 AD you will never mark this. That's why the option is none also. But what will you do in the examination hall? You will keep on thinking, यार इनका क्या टाइम पीरियड है, इनका क्या टाइम पीरियड है, बता दो कहीं से, भगवान टपक जाओ, अवतार ले लो, बता दो हमें. अरे नहीं, दिस यू नो. मैप भी देखा होगा, वही 3 थी. तो ट्रस्ट योर सेल्फ नो कि नहीं थी भाई. उससे पहले तो हर्षा थे, गुप्तास थे, कैसे आ जाएंगे? Right? So it's not factual, it's about your understanding about the timeline and the period. But what are you doing? You are again thinking in the wrong way. Is it not? तो कहाँ से है भाई factual ये? मुझे बता दो. Is it factual? No. 750 AD must make sense to you. Yes or no? मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है मैं ऐसा कोई रेवलेशन दे रही हूँ, कोई ऐसा ज्ञान दे रही हूँ जो एक बोधि ट्री के नीचे मिल रहा है आपको. योर फेसेस आर सो ब्लैंक एंड अमेज्ड, यू आर लुकिंग सो अमेज्ड. या काश हमें पहले पता चलता. ऐसा ही है ना? यस और नो? ठीक है. तो कुछ नहीं है अभी. टाइम इज इन योर फेवर. देयर इज सो मच ऑफ टाइम, ओनली 11 chapters. Right? Now, 2024, 2023, what have they asked? They have asked from a section where your modern Indian history and medieval are merging. Right? So what are they asking? Which of the following rulers of medieval India gave permission to the Portuguese to build a fort at Bhatkal? Then in 2023 also they asked the question, which ruler of medieval Gujarat surrendered due to Portuguese. फिर आपको मैं अगर दिखाऊं 2025 में भी ना they asked about Portuguese. 2023 से 2024 से 2025 they are only asking on Portuguese and their relation with the dynasties. ठीक है, जो 2025 का क्वेश्चन था that was purely modern Indian history, that which were the fruits that were introduced by Portuguese, but there have been questions from Portuguese since 2023. तो अगर किसी को लग रहा है कि उन्होंने पोर्चुगीज पूछ लिया है फिर से नहीं पूछेंगे, wrong. 3 consecutive years Portuguese in different forms, right? तो इंपीरियल चोलास पूछ लिया श्री विजयपुरम, इस बार ही नहीं पूछेंगे, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
Most aspirants think revision means reading the same books again and again, highlighting lines, turning pages, hoping it sticks. But real revision doesn't work like that. Revision is not about rereading, it's about recall, connections and practice. If you can't recall an answer without opening the book, it won't help in the exam hall. True revision is about connecting concepts, simplifying them through mind maps, and strengthening recall with repeated MCQ practice. That's where structured revision makes a difference. The quick revision classes for prelims starting 20th January at 2 p.m. are designed exactly for this. Focused revision through core topics, smart consolidation, mind map based clarity, and MCQ driven practice. With 40 intensive classes, the program ensures complete coverage of high yield areas, helping you revise efficiently and recall with confidence when it matters the most. Because in prelims, success does not come from reading again. It comes from remembering faster and applying better. To know more, visit our website or call us on the given number.
Right? तो NCERT based ही question है वो भी. There has also been a question in modern Indian history which was talking about the different European companies coming, right? तो वो ऐसे merge करते हैं questions को और पूछा क्या है? Who gave the permission to the Portuguese to set up, let's say, fort? Who surrendered or fought or got defeated at the hands of Portuguese and due was to be surrendered to them, right? So ruler, obviously, history is about the person who has contributed and has done something, right? उनके time period में कुछ हुआ हो, तो वही पूछा है, factually question है, but again logical one and very important development during the phase. कहाँ से आए हैं question? NCERT से, right? ठीक है. I want to show you this question, although it is of modern Indian history, but how your medieval India and modern gets merged. For example, in the first statement they are giving, Dutch established their factory on the east coast on lands granted to them by Gajapati ruler. Now Gajapati rulers or Portuguese, sorry, Dutch का क्या time period है? If you make sense, then the statement is wrong. ठीक है, तो अगर ये एलिमिनेट हो जाता है तो आंसर आ जाता है. तो दिस इज ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द वे टू अंडरस्टैंड AMC, राइट? तो एवरीथिंग इज इन योर NCERT. देन लास्ट क्वेश्चन, रिपीटेड ट्वाइस ऑन द सेम टॉपिक. 2016 में पूछा था अरागट्टा है क्या, राइट? व्हाट डज अरागट्टा रेफर टू? 2025 में पूछा अरागट्टा तो इरिगेशन डिवाइस है, ये तो आपको पता चल गया है, वी हैव ओनली आस्क्ड दैट, बट व्हाट एक्चुअली इट इज. सो इन 2016 दे हैड आस्क्ड व्हाट वाज इट? इरिगेशन डिवाइस. वाटर व्हील, वाटर व्हील मतलब कुछ व्हील टाइप का स्ट्रक्चर है. तो व्हील जब यहाँ दे दिया तो यहाँ पर एक ही व्हील था विच कुड बी रिलेटेड टू इरिगेशन, राइट? तो आपको देखना क्या चाहिए था? फोटो. ऑल्दो ये भी क्वेश्चन इसी बुक से है, बट आई फील कि एक बार अरागट्टा देख लेना चाहिए था. तो अगर देख लिया होता तो A और B में कंफ्यूज नहीं होते. This is why I say it's more about visualization. Maps, boxes, pictures. The more you do it, the better you feel about it, and you get good marks. Now what is next? Too many sources. बहुत सारे हैं, बहुत सारे brands हैं, बहुत सारे अलग अलग nature of products है of your content, whether online, whether offline, whether hard copy, whether soft copy, whether compilations, whether prelims bite, something or the other is there, right? और ज़्यादा आएंगे इस time पे. Why? Because of this fear surrounding prelims. बहुत सारे notes आएंगे. ये compilation, वो compilation, this in short, this in big, this in crisp, right? But you have to say no. Actually, you have to say no so that you don't become Gauri Bhaiya. You don't become Sandeep Bhaiya. You have to rely on what you are doing and seeing from the perspective of UPSC PYQs, and that is specifically when it comes to the subject. What you need obviously is one-stop solution. That is, you have to restrict your sources. Secondly, the kind of pedagogy or the learning which I have shown you, that you need to make sense, you need to visualize it, you need to understand the nature, is what you need to know. Either join classes, short modules, it's your call. If you still do not feel confident, there are many courses in line with Vision IAS, like PYQ courses there. There is this Prelims Speed Up course which is also coming in AMC as well as Environment SNT. अगर आप नहीं हो, छोटे-छोटे modules कर खत्म कर दो. Right? Because they mean 10-12 questions, which is quite a long or huge range of marks. एक और चीज़ मैं बताना चाहूँगी before I sort out your problem. So how many marks are there in your prelims? 100 questions is equal to 200 marks. How much passing marks you are requiring to clear any examination? 30 to 35% marks, है ना? UPSC prelims में कितने questions confidently आते हैं? Someone is a very good student or an average student who's made sense of this examination. Only this much. सिर्फ 30-35 question आपको आएंगे confidently. कितने आएंगे? 30-35 questions. उसके बाद क्या करना है? Let's say you are in the range of 60 to 70 marks. ये तो आने ही चाहिए, right? What is the cutoff range? आपको कितना लाना है? You have to cross 90 plus to feel safe. Yes or no? कितने marks? Plus 25 to 30? Maximum? Yes or no? Maximum marks है ये जो आप ला सकते हो. ये कहाँ से आ रहे हैं आपको पता है? और ये कहाँ से आएंगे आपको पता है? ये आपके आते हैं your 30-35 questions which you are confident, polity, economics, geography and MIH, modern Indian history. सबके यहाँ से marks आते हैं ये. Yes, you all agree? बचे कौन से subject? AMC, environment, जिसका पता नहीं है कहाँ से आ रहा है, कहाँ से नहीं आ रहा, what question, what not. ये subjects are the deciding factors to gain those 20-30 marks, which is creating that difference. That is why we have come up with these prelim speed up courses on these subjects only, because we understand where is the problem, right? खैर, the point ये है कि ये कैसे आ रहे हैं 25-30, यहाँ से आ रहे हैं, right? अब AMC में मैंने आपको जो themes बताई हैं, what are they? How many chapters in ancient? 4. How many chapters in medieval? 5-6. उन्हीं का ही culture कर लो, उन्हीं का ही culture कर लो, plus Buddhism, Jainism. Current affairs, PT 365, your game is set to be in the race. यहाँ से आपको क्या लगता है कितने क्वेश्चंस आ जाएंगे विच कैन बी डूएबल और विच आर डूएबल? 5 to 8 ठीक होने ही चाहिए if you are doing those themes and doing it that way, right? यहाँ से how many questions? Let's say 5, let's say 3, कितने हो गए ये? Minimum 13, maximum how many? 16. कितने मार्क्स हो गए 13 to 16? 26 to 32 हो गया. In which zone? Safe zone. कौन सा? 95 to 105. ये है जो आपको आपकी नैया पार लगाएगा. ये सब कर रहे हैं 30 to 35%. Yes or no? To focus on this, not at the cost of that, obviously, but focusing on basic, important, minimum, deriving maximum result. वो होगा when you shortlist your sources. NCERT, very, very important. सिर्फ NCERT plus PD365 test series जो भी आप कर रहे हो, more than sufficient. But your NCERT requires revisions. That's it. और कुछ नहीं करना है. Specifically, I'm talking about AMC. This new book has been added in your thing. तो ये करनी है because the chapters are these. Language and literature. Language, literature से question आता है. Philosophical system has become important. Performing art, Indian art and architecture. Performing art में you have music, dance, theatre, puppetry. All in one chapter. यहीं से music वाला question आया V.D. Paluskar. You can get a question on philosophy this time, right? So you have these chapters. If not all, do first 4 chapters. अगर आप मेरे से पूछोगे मैथमेटिक्स पे क्वेश्चन आया है, yes, there have been a question on astronomy and mathematics before आर्यभट्ट, बरहम, हीरा, इन सब के बारे में वो पूछ चुके हैं in prelims. तो अगर हो सकता है तो +2, नहीं तो these 4 are very, very important. This is the new NCERT which has to be done, right? So with this, we come to the end of the discussion and analysis. Now tell me, what are your problems still left? कैसा है ये अब ये subject? What is bothering you still? Sources हो गया, topics हो गया, मतलब माइक्रो थीम्स हो गई, मैक्रो थीम्स हो गई, सोर्सेज हो गए, करंट अफेयर्स हो गया, टेस्ट सीरीज हो गई. इज देयर एनीथिंग विच इज लेफ्ट नाउ? नो. इज देयर एनीथिंग विच इज लेफ्ट? नो. व्हाट इज लेफ्ट इज रिविजन ऑफ दीज थिंग्स अगेन एंड अगेन एंड अगेन एंड अगेन. दैट्स इट. गुप्ता चेंज नहीं होगा और बेटर हो जाएगा विद एवरी रिविजन. But if you'll do from different sources, the same Gupta Empire, खिचड़ी बनेगी बहुत गंदी वाली, स्वाद भी नहीं आएगा उसका, and you'll feel lost. बहुत गंदा सर दर्द हो जाएगा examination hall में, because you won't be able to connect and recollect anything. है ना? So with this, we are ending the session. If you have any question, you can ask. No? So all the best. I wish you very, very good wishes, right? Give your tests, give your open tests, give the upcoming Abhyas tests whenever they will be coming, right? Build your confidence, don't lose hope. Take from each test a learning, lesson, right? You still have time, but this time needs to be utilized very judiciously now. You can't end up doing the same thing which you started with 1 year back. एक साल से आप कर रहे हो अब. Things I know are not under your control. Many of you must be feeling this. It's very normal, right? सोच लो आज से नया दिन है. You still have time. You still can utilize the time if you are very strategic. Now is not the time to do everything. Take the help of PYQs, shortlist the topics or at least the macro topics, extract as number of questions and learnings and elimination traps as much as possible of the last 15-20 years, and everything will be all right. This is how you should be or you should have been doing. But first we need to prepare the base. That's why it takes long. But abhi bhi gaadi raste pe hi hai aapki, if you are controlling it in the right way. Right? So all the best, guys. Have a nice day.